Hey boss, are you getting our weekly Brood email filled with the latest news on the topics of money, marketing, and productivity? If not, you gotta sign up. It is a boss favorite with industry-smashing stats to prove it. It's here to keep you up to date with what's going on around the world to help you make decisions in your business. Now, if you are getting Brood, I'm here to tell you that our new Brood referral program is here to reward you for sharing this epic newsletter with digital downloads and merch like stickers and mugs to high-five you for helping your friends be more boss too. Learn more and sign up for both our weekly Brood email and the referral program at beingboss.club/brood. That's beingboss.club/BREWED. Welcome to Being Boss, a podcast for creatives, business owners, and entrepreneurs who want to take control of their work and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Emily Thompson, and in this episode, I'm joined again by Eman Ismail to talk about her recent maternity leave, which, as you'll hear, was executed in a way that I believe is a wonderful example of what is possible for us to accomplish in our boss-owned businesses. We'll go on the journey of planning, taking, and coming back from her recent maternity leave as a micro business owner with client-facing services. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference on the show notes at www.beingboss.club. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the show and share us with a friend. Want to build a more streamlined business, but want to do it in quick spurts of actionable info? Then you've got to check out I Digress, a show hosted by Troy Sandage, brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. With shows under 30 minutes, I Digress helps eliminate complexity, complications, and confusion in your business with frameworks and strategies to achieve scalable and sustainable success, and does so with episodes like how to attract your ideal customer in an oversaturated market and hourly rates versus project pricing, charge for value for results instead of time. Learn more and listen to I Digress wherever you get your podcasts. Eman Ismail is the person to call when you want to make money from your emails. As an email conversion strategist and copywriter, she helps 6+ figure online business owners and e-commerce brands fire up their conversions, evergreen their sales, and turn fans into super fans. When she's not writing high converting emails for clients, delivering workshops, or teaching business owners how to write copy that converts, she's binging either podcasts or pizza. Welcome back to the show, Eman. I'm so glad to be having this chat with you today.
Hey, Emily, thank you so much for having me again. Honestly, being on this show once was just a dream, so I'm so happy to be here a second time.
Yeah, this is going to be such a good one. The topic today, which is taking a maternity leave, is one that comes up constantly. I mean, there's not like a season of having babies, we're all having babies all the time. Someone's always having a baby. And so someone is always either coming into our Monday meetups or, just shooting an email or, around like some sort of conversation going, OMG, I'm pregnant. OMG, I have to plan maternity leave.
Help. What do I do? Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. Like where does one even start? So before we dive into that, because I want to go through all the things that you went through, or at least some of them, a good number of the things that you went through over the course of planning, taking, and coming off of maternity leave. I want to start with just, what's been going on. You were last on the show about a year ago, so June 2021. What's been going on since then other than maternity leave?
Yeah, well, I was going to say the biggest thing has to be the new addition to the family. So I now have a 7-month-old, almost 8-month-old, and that means I have 2 boys. So one who's a little older at 6 and then my youngest at 7 months. So it has really just been me kind of adapting to this new life and also trying to grow my business while also giving myself the kind of space that I needed. It's definitely been a year of just trying to find some kind of balance, and I'm still working on that. We're getting there. But I've also just been trying really hard to enjoy life a bit more, just really take in every single day. And so I try to start every day now with a walk in nature and just really enjoy the time that I have. And make the most of being a business owner. I think one of the things that I've realized over the past year is how, I mean, there are loads of difficulties, obviously, as we know, and we're going to get into those around being a business owner. But I want to make most of the positive stuff and like the benefits more, which is, you know, the flexibility and the freedom and the independence. So definitely been trying to find that balance and just trying to make the most of the good stuff about being a business owner.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like that's going to be a whole fun part of this conversation for sure. But you also made a really big move in the past year too, correct?
Yes. I moved countries. So I was in the UK and I've now moved to Europe. And so it has, so much has happened. I moved countries. I moved my business over as well. So I am now officially a company, a limited company here in Europe. So it has been a lot. And it's so funny because I had all these plans. I mean, we'll go into this in a second, but I had all these plans about what I was going to do. Like, I'm going to have this space during maternity leave. So yeah, this is what I'm going to do with that space. There was no space. And so trying to like set up this company has been a lot. And it's felt so hard at times that I kind of thought, why does this feel like I'm starting again? And then I kind of just sat for a moment and thought, well, actually, I kind of am. Like, this is a whole new entity. It's a whole new thing. It's for me, it felt like it was, you know, the same business, but it's a new company in its own, you know, right. And so there's been a lot going on and just trying to manage that and, you know, being a proper grown-up business owner and dealing with, I mean, there's definitely been a lot of growth over the past year. So dealing with kind of bigger numbers and figures and feeling comfortable and confident enough to deal with those bigger numbers, bigger clients and names as well. So it's been a lot.
It's been a long year, it sounds like.
It has. And sometimes you just got to just think like, wow, you know?
Yeah.
Chill out.
You did all that. but also you did all that. And I'm glad that you touched on this because I was going to ask the question, you know, in the past year, you know, you moved countries, which is no small feat. You literally, you know, reincorporated or however you guys say that over there, your business in a completely different like government entity, right? And you got pregnant, had another baby, went on maternity leave, like all of these things. And you still experienced growth while sort of recalibrating that like work-life balance where it sounds like you had a very life-heavy year, right?
Yeah.
But your business still saw growth.
Yeah. And it was hard work. And I think I'm going to be totally honest and say some of that was probably motivated by anxiety at one point with the baby on the way. But, you know, I have really big goals for myself and I think it really annoys me that sometimes it feels like as women we have to choose between family and business and I refuse to let my business suffer because I want a family. It doesn't make sense to me and I don't think that should be the case. And so I'm working really hard to kind of find a way to keep growing both and keep nurturing both. Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely talking about like sort of ancestral mindset, right? Of like, you can't be a businesswoman or like a professional woman and have a thriving family. You have to choose one or the other. That's something that we're all like instilled with and have been for generations, right? Even as we're sort of crawling out of that, like it's still very much so ingrained in us, but it is not necessarily true. Like we can just as easily, maybe if even more easily, decide to believe that we can have a thriving, happy business and a thriving, happy family. And maybe it's, you know, it doesn't look like it would have looked, but it can happen. And I love that you're like prioritizing sort of making that choice that you can have both.
Yeah. And, you know, it's been really hard because I think I've been grappling a lot with, you know, it's just, that I just feel like it's so boring of me to even say. It's just so cliche. But mum, I'm just so tired of even thinking about mum guilt and, all that kind of guilt. Oh, if I'm spending time in my business, I'm not as with my kids as much as I should be. Well, you know what? I'm in my home office. I've literally created an office in my home so I can be at home as much as possible. I do as much as I can. And I've realized that I'm a better mother to my kids when I am feeling fulfilled in other ways outside of the family, and they get a better version of me for it. And so when I started to think of it like that, I really started to prioritize having me time, whether it is just going for that walk and, listening to a podcast, or carving out time to work on my business, because that's what fills my juices creatively. It's important for me and it's important for them. And also my older son is getting to an age where we have this conversation about me working and, why I work. And I'm very open with him about the fact that, well, I work so that we can, have nice things, and so that we can be stable and safe, and also because I love my work. And I've started to talk about that second aspect a lot more now. I love my work and I want to do it. And it's really funny because we were just walking through the supermarket about an hour ago, and I don't know where he got this from, but he said super loud, as 6-year-olds do, "Mama, are you rich?" I'm pretty sure the people around me had. I was like, I don't know where he got that idea from. So I just kind of clarified that for him. No, I'm not rich, but I plan to be. We're going to get there. But it's, it's great to be able to have those conversations with him about business and money and dreams as well. He's at the age where he's talking about what he wants to be and what he wants to do. And so I think it's inspiring for him. And I know, as someone who is the daughter of a working mother, my mum worked so hard. All it ever did was motivate me. And then I got to a certain age where I could just really appreciate really how much she did. And I wouldn't want it any other way for my own kids.
Yeah. Oh, you just touched on so many nuggets there that I think are so important. If anyone needs to rewind and listen to that again, I feel like you have definitely the right mindset in terms of the opportunities that we have in, instilling in our children this sort of better way of looking at work. Right? Of and how it is that we want to enter into the work that we do and curate and cultivate the work that we do and all of those things. That is so much, maybe more healed than it has been ever. Right? And so I love that you're doing all of that. I love that you're having all of those conversations. I think that, this sets a really great foundation for the conversation we're here to have. But I think before we dive into that, maybe let's give a little bit of perspective in terms of you and your business, because we're going to talk about you planning, taking, and coming back from your maternity leave as you in the business that you have. So let's set the stage. If you wouldn't mind, give me a quick recap of what you do and who you do it for. And I think for the purpose of this conversation too, sort of what your team looks like.
Oh, great question. Okay. So I am an email strategist and copywriter, and I help online business owners and e-commerce brands fire up their conversions, evergreen their sales, and turn fans into super fans through email. So that is just a really kind of fancy way of saying that I help my clients, business owners, make money through email, and not just make money, but also really build impactful relationships that can help their businesses grow, not just financially, but also through that, building of relationships. And when I was here last year, my business was called Ink House. And with the moving of countries and, creating a new company, the name Ink House was taken. So,
oh my God.
I know.
It's worst nightmare.
Worst nightmare. And I was devastated initially. And then I thought, it's a chance for me to rebrand.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of feeling like Ink House didn't really fit me anymore. I'm accidentally really kind of a personal brand. People come to me for me. They know it's me. I'm very my face is kind of everywhere. And so I thought this is a good opportunity for me to rebrand. And so my new company is called Eman Copy Co. And I have kind of left room there. it was so difficult choosing a name. But right now it's just me, but I've left room there in the name for the company to grow. Again, last year was a little different in terms of how my team looked. I had an assistant and I had a social media manager. And I let both of those go on good terms as I was kind of entering maternity leave. And when I came back, my intention was to rehire my social media manager. She did a great job, and I think we worked on my Instagram specifically, and I think that I love Instagram and I think it's super important for my business. However, coming back into work, I realized how much, and after talking to you, you gave me a bit of advice too, I realized how much I really just need some support before I get to even kind of social media. So I'm actually hiring for an assistant right now. So I'm looking for an assistant right now, and I'm hoping to get someone to kind of help me with that kind of side of my business, kind of systems, ops, admin, all that stuff. So right now it's just me. I've really scaled back, but I don't intend for it to be just me much longer.
Perfect. And I love this view of like, going into maternity leave, you had a couple of contractors that you were working with. You were able to position. And that's one of the benefits of working with contractors, right? They sort of come and go very easily. So when you're in the time of your life when, you're like, am I going to have to, take a pause from my business for whatever reason? And that's one of the benefits of working with contractors. It's easier to sort of come and go from those relationships in that way. So love that perspective. Let's talk about this maternity leave then. I guess my first question to lead us into it, I think everyone always first wants to know, like, when do you need to start planning? Do you start like the moment you find out you're pregnant? Probably not a bad idea. Like 5 years before, if you're super type A, you already have it all planned out. Or did you start later? And how do you feel about when you started? Do you feel like you started planning it at the right time or not?
Okay, so there's just so much to this question. So the first thing is that I think that if you know that you want to have a family, or maybe you already have a family and you already have kids and you want to have more, then it's a very good idea to grow your business in a way that supports that from the very beginning. So you kind of want to take that into consideration from the very beginning. So it was really funny because I came into January 2021. I'm confused, Emily.
Who knows what time is?
Right. I came into January 2021 with a very clear idea that I want to work less and earn more. So that was my thing. Like I was like, I am feeling a little burnt out. I joined this great mastermind. I'd already told my coach, like, this is the goal, work less, earn more. I want to change my entire business model. And so I was already planning to change my entire business model. I already had this plan that was going to create more space for me. I decided to change my business so that I was doing like a VIP offer only type of business model. So, like people do VIP days. For me, VIP days aren't enough for me to work on email strategy and copy in a way that's meaningful for my clients. So I decided to create my own thing called a VIP week. So I would work with my clients on their email strategy and copy in week chunks. And I raised my rates because I needed to at that point. And for the type of work that I was doing, that was like deep work and deep strategy, and how quickly as well that I was producing the work, my rates needed to go up. And so that meant that I could instantly start earning more. I decided I was going to put a cap on the amount of clients that I took. I was only going to take 2 VIP weeks a month. So that would leave me with 2 weeks that I was not working in the month, with clients anyway. And so the idea was I'm going to have like a week A where I have a VIP week, and then a week B where I am maybe focusing on business development, marketing, that kind of thing. And then a week A again where I'm doing a VIP week. And then the following week is clear of client work again. So I already had this plan. Now, I've already shared this on another podcast, so I feel totally fine sharing this, that this pregnancy was not planned.
Okay, that was my next question. Were you doing all of this knowing that a baby? Okay.
And no clue. Funny thing is, I was already pregnant at this point and I just didn't know it.
Oh, wow.
I had no, So I'm like planning this whole thing. I had no clue. And then I found out I was pregnant, and baby was totally welcome, and we were very excited. It was a little bit of a shock. We just moved country, so it was a lot. But it was a lot. But I mean, I knew I always wanted to have more children. I am an only child, so I knew that I didn't want my son to be an only child, and that was something growing up that I always just knew. I know that I want to have more than one, and so that was that. So I was excited about that, but it was a surprise, and so I wasn't planning for a baby or maternity leave or anything like that, but it just felt so almost like it was meant to be, because I'd already started planning this like new phase in my business where I was going to have more space, and I was going to have more time, and I was going to earn more and work less, and I was going to work more with, you know, clients that I loved working with and who made me, you know, excited and passionate about my work, and work less with the clients who stressed me out. And it's so funny because I actually had a very difficult client that I was working with at the time where, you know, I hadn't worked with someone who I'd found that difficult to work with for a very, very long time at that point. And I found myself kind of in a situation where I thought, how did I get here again? You know, when you just wonder, like, how did this happen? And you feel like you're back in like, in
what
like
did I do
one
wrong?
of your business, right?
Yeah.
And I remember finding out I was pregnant, and I don't know if it was the hormones, or I don't know if I just
all of the above,
right? It was all of it. I just remember thinking, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Like, I am done. Here's a refund. We're not going to be working together. All the best. And that just felt like a completely new chapter. Yeah. I was like, okay, from now on, when I get that little feeling in my stomach that tells me like a client isn't a good fit, I'm going to go with that feeling, and I'm going to create a business that makes me happy, because I could see and feel that when I wasn't doing that, I'd bring all that stuff home, you know, and it affects everyone around you, and it affects your kids and your partner and everything. And I didn't want that anymore. So I'd already created this whole thing for myself. I was in a state of change. I'd already started planning it. And then I found out I was having a baby, and I thought, well, now I just don't have a choice. I really have to do all this stuff.
Time for some follow through.
Time for some execution. So that was that. So, I mean, I would recommend that you plan as early as you can. But in my case, I didn't have that chance to. But as soon as I found out, I was instantly in, okay, let's start planning mode, because I knew I'd have to self-fund my maternity leave as well. So that was huge. I needed to figure it out.
HubSpot's CRM platform can help you kickstart your sales process, increase your leads, and stay connected with customers. Plus, it will scale with your business, making HubSpot the perfect tool for any creative business owner. Hear it from a real boss using HubSpot to grow their business.
My name is Laura DeFranco. I'm the founder of Free Period Press, a Being Boss podcast fan and HubSpot CRM customer. It's really important to have a pulse on what's going on with our retail customers. I want to know how their customers are responding to our product, our prices, and what trends they're seeing in their shops. Even though we're working digitally, we're trying to keep our relationships as human as possible by developing real connections with store owners. We use HubSpot to track all of our wholesale accounts and prospects. We're honestly just scratching the surface in HubSpot's capabilities, but it's really nice to know that we're set up in a system that has the features we'll need as we grow. We track the contact information for all of our wholesale stockists and leads in HubSpot. There's so much data that we can add for each stockist, not just email and address, but any personal notes, the last time they ordered, or special requirements. When it's time to reach out to our accounts, we can filter so that we're sending more personalized messages to each store, and that is super helpful. My HubSpot CRM platform helps my business stay connected. Learn more about how it can do the same for yours at HubSpot.com.
Okay, so next question then, this sort of part of this is that transition that you were making in your business. So you decide you need to like make some shifts up until like it's relatively fully implemented. And maybe not like planning maternity leave, but isn't that like, you know, phase one is like setting up your business to support you while you can and be easier to sort of deal with a maternity leave, come back from maternity, all of those things. So I see this as sort of phase one of like getting your business ready for you showing up differently, right?
Yeah.
One way or the other. About how long do you think that phase took to feel like it was implemented?
Oh, it was a while.
Yeah.
So, and I also was kind of, I was also, it was a transition period. It was a transition period. So I had started planning that in January, and in January, I told myself, okay, from now on, any clients that come to me, I'm only going to offer the VIP week. I'm not going to take on any custom projects that go on for months and months like I had been. That I'm not going to do that anymore. However, I had already locked myself into some projects that took me up to May. So I knew that I was in these projects and I needed to finish that. So that was interesting because that taught me something I didn't know about myself. Initially, I'd been super excited, as you do, raving that I'm booked out for 6 months. How exciting. And then I realized the reality of being booked out for 6 months in advance. And I really felt very claustrophobic. I felt very stuck. I felt like the flexibility that I had been working so hard for had just completely gone. And I was really locked in for five months. And so, from that point on, I realized that's not for me. Some people want that and aim for that, and that's fantastic. But for me, I can't do it. So I only ever book myself out maximum month and a half in advance, because I like being able to just be like, okay, great, I'm going to go travel, or I don't know, I'm going to go do this, or I'm just going to take a week off. That's what I live for. And so it was a transition period. And I think the danger is that sometimes we feel like things should happen really quickly and we're doing something wrong if it doesn't. And I think what I did do well was that I prepared myself for a long transition, and I gave myself permission for it to be a longer transition. And the goal was really to just have everything done as much as I possibly could up until the cut-off point that I decided. And it wasn't something that needed to happen overnight.
Yeah. I think, one, you've definitely touched on another one of those, sort of business standards that bosses, I think, in general should break. And this idea of being booked out is the pinnacle of especially solopreneur existence, right? Of that is your metric for success, but not the way we usually measure success, right? And so I love that you realize so quickly, and I hope anyone can sort of take this or take something from this, the idea that usual sort of pop metric that you want to be booked out as far as possible is actually really detrimental to the flexibility and sometimes creative energy of the kinds of work that we do.
Oh yeah. And my business evolves so quickly. I love experimenting in my business and changing things. And, I'll try at that point, I tried a new service. It didn't work. I'd try something else. Now I've been doing this VIP week model for a while now, and it works really well. So I know that this is what I want to stick with for the long haul. But at the time, things were changing very rapidly. Yeah. And then suddenly I was stuck in this mode for 5-6 months where I couldn't change anything because I'd already committed to doing things in a certain way. And I felt very creatively stifled. And I felt it felt like I was working actually unpaid because the projects have been paid for so far in advance. Yeah. So kind of early on in the year. And when I'm working on them in May, it was really difficult because I was like, I've been paid, but it was so long ago that it feels like I haven't been paid. So that was also really interesting to work through. So yeah, not for me.
Right. And I will say if that is your vibe and that is your version of success, please work for it. But I also love that you're showing how that's not necessarily everyone's ideal.
Yeah. And I think, and I totally agree. If it works for you, absolutely go for it. But I did just want to share that because I think that is the norm. Like you said, that's what we're told to aim for. And that if you're doing that, then you're doing well. And if you're not booked out in advance for X month, you're not doing well. And that's just not the case.
Yeah, no. I also love that you, hit on this time frame because I feel like especially, type A creatives, here we are. When we make decisions, we want them to be implemented immediately, and the faster the better. But you're illustrating that this was a several month-long process. And I think whenever you're making big changes in your business like that, you should absolutely plan for it to take 3 to 6 months to implement big structural changes in your business. You're not going to, be making big bucks next month on an idea you just had. in most cases.
No, it's so true. And, wow, I'd forgotten about this, but you've taken me back, Emily. I remember. So I just joined this mastermind. I was really excited about joining. I had this coach. I'd obviously invested quite a bit in this and I was super excited to start. But that January, I didn't do a thing. Like I didn't execute at all. And I spent all of January just thinking and brainstorming. And I remember thinking, I've never given myself this much time to just stop and think about what I want to do. And it felt so good. It felt terrifying because I'm very much a doer. So it felt like I need to be doing. Why am I not doing? But actually just having that time to really think about what I wanted to do and how I wanted my business to look, that was the most thinking time I've ever given myself. And it really paid off because I made the right decisions for me at the time. And a year and a half nearly later, I'm still feeling really good about those decisions.
Oh, that's invaluable stuff. I mean, you gave it like a proper winter, right? Like you really sat with it. You really thought it out and you weren't doing, but there is some important internal work that needs to be done that we definitely don't give enough value to because no one can see the productivity of it, right? Like it's all happening in your head or like researching or whatever it may be, but it's a super important part of the process. So I love that you gave it that time and that you're really seeing how that paid off for yourself. So you spent a couple of months like putting this new structure in place, at first not knowing that you were pregnant and then realizing you were and realizing this path that you had sort of intuitively chosen for yourself was the one that you needed to align yourself with the next steps of your life. What did the next phase look like? So you set up these new business structures with the idea that this was going to how you were going to do business, but then you quickly realized that you needed to actually take a break from business. So what did it look like to plan this break, especially with this new structure in place?
Well, I knew that I needed cash.
Yeah.
And so that became the main goal. So it became a question of, well, how can I make a lot of money fairly quickly? And it felt like it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. But I tried to lean into, well, what do I enjoy doing and what do I think will work? And so I found myself coming up with quite a few different ideas. So we already know that with client work, I'd raised my rates quite significantly and that was going really well. So I was already earning more from client work and I was working less on client work, which was brilliant. And I was only taking on, projects that I really loved. So I felt energized in that sense. And then I also had a lot of speaking stuff going on. So in my industry, in the copywriting industry, I was kind of becoming more noticed and I was getting on kind of virtual stages at the time, virtual because of COVID. I was getting on some quite significant virtual stages where other copywriters were starting to notice me and also just express interest in wanting to learn from me. So again, I really thought deeply and hard about whether I was going to do this. But then I decided that I was going to create some kind of learning experience for copywriters and that was going to be a significant part of where the cash that I needed for maternity leave was going to come in from. And in the end, I decided on a mastermind for copywriters and I ended up doing it. And the great thing about this was that I believe in pre-selling very, very, very deeply. So I never create a thing before having sold it. I created, I think, the bonus for the mastermind and I created the first module. Did I even create the first module? I don't think I did create the first module. I think I just created the bonus and the sales page. And then I went out into the world and said, this is the mastermind I'm doing. Like I'd planned it all out. I knew what it was going to look like. I knew what it was going to be like. I asked guest speakers to come and speak. Emily, I asked you and you came and spoke to my masterminders. And, it's so funny because I was asking you and all these other guest speakers to come and speak and I hadn't sold a single spot yet. And I'm thinking, just please let me actually sell these spots because I'm getting all this stuff ready. Anyway, created the sales page, created the bonus. And then I told everyone, look, this is what I'm doing, launched it, and it sold out. And it was high ticket. So high ticket-ish. It was £1,997 per person. And so if I look that up in dollars, if that might be like a little helpful for you. About 2,500 USD maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had 12 spots and I sold all 12 spots. One person ended up asking for a refund because they'd had a medical kind of emergency. So 11 spots sold, and the majority of a couple of people paid up front. The majority of those people paid using the payment plan. And I actually created a 6-month extended payment plan because I wanted to make it as accessible as I possibly could while also making it financially viable for me. And it's so crazy because that was one of the best things I could have done. And I was so grateful that those people had paid via payment plan, because the way that it worked, like the way the dates worked, I had gone on maternity leave and had the baby, and those payments were still coming in for a significant amount of time. So it was brilliant. So I had that mastermind. I did that. It went amazingly. And then I felt really good because now I had this great program that was just all about, I don't like calling myself a coach because I don't feel like I'm a coach. I feel like I'm someone who has done the things that the people who joined the mastermind wanted to do.
You're an expert.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm an expert in growing a copywriting business successfully. And these specific people wanted to learn from me specifically. And so I walked them through that and also, just help them create a copywriting business that worked for them. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I loved it. I found it a little difficult. It required energy because I had to show up a lot, and being pregnant, that was difficult. So that's really something to consider, like your energy levels. But I really did enjoy it. It was brilliant. And then financially, it paid off, absolutely. And then I had this thing that I knew that I could relaunch again next year. So we'll move on to that in a minute. But some other things that I did to kind of create a cash influx was launch my copywriting course, as in relaunch. That was already in existence. So I just opened the doors again to my copywriting course. That one was for all business owners, not just copywriters, and just teaching them, the kind of foundational skills of copywriting. And that went well as well. And again, most people chose payment plans, so those payments were coming in, and that was great. And then I was taking on clients as well. And so I had a really great financial year, but I was just like storing away that money like a little squirrel with nuts, preparing for hibernation. I know squirrels don't hibernate, but that was like the only word that was coming to me.
Right? Okay. But I'm loving so many pieces of this. I love that you started out with this really practical, and maybe this is even like a practical and very personal thing where, would you say that you feel like, like money is one of those things that makes you feel incredibly safe and secure?
Oh yeah. So much.
Yeah.
So much.
So I love that you, one, know that about yourself, right? Like, in order for me to feel good taking this maternity leave, I need to squirrel away a whole bunch of cash, right? Yeah. And so you recognize that, and then you went to work on the thing, and you thought outside the box to think about, what is it that you are qualified to do, which is an important thing there. I'm going to be qualified to do it, to give you the resources that you need to feel comfortable taking this moment. I also love that you had set up your business in a way that allotted you basically half the month, every single month, to dedicating not to the client work, because that was the other half, but to these sort of, business development things that allowed you to make the extra cash that you needed to put you in a place where you could take this leave in a way that made you feel as like safe and secure as possible. Because like these parenting situations, it really is about safety and security. It's about getting you to that place, whatever it looks like for you. And for you and your business, you focused on that. You made the plan. You showed up and did the work. And you did it.
Thank you. I will say that as I got closer and closer to my due date, or the date that I knew that I wanted to kind of sign off of work, I started getting inquiries that it was really difficult, because I kind of started having to say no to people. And then I found myself saying yes, but really I should have been saying no. But, I was looking at the dollar signs like, I could really do with that. Why not? And so by the end of it, I was probably a little overworked. I should definitely not have said yes to those final few projects, but I did. And, I finished them, got them done. And I did sign off on the date that I had planned to, but I was a little more tired than I had planned to be.
Sure. Did you set like a financial goal in the beginning? And if so, did you make it and or exceed it?
I made a financial goal because I knew that I wanted to pay myself a salary for every month that I was going to be off. Yeah. So not even just for when the baby was here, but the month before as well. So I wanted to take off the month before and then months after. And I didn't know how long I wanted to take off. So the first question was, right, well, how long do you want for maternity leave? And my answer to that was, I don't know. And I want to be in a position where that's okay. Where if I decide that I want to take longer, then that's okay. And if I decide that I want to go back earlier, that's okay. But I imagined, knowing myself, that I'd probably start itching to get back to work around 6 or 7 months. And I was right. So by the time I was kind of off for 6 months, I decided to come back at that point, kind of very slowly. But when it came to planning, okay, how much money do I need? I knew that I needed to support myself for at least 7 months. So I had that figure and I exceeded it.
I love it. And because you took those last couple projects, because you just had to squirrel away more nuts.
Right. But it was great because I actually went back to work, I think, for 2 months, and I was still able to pay myself off of the savings. So
Amazing.
I was making money. Yeah, I was making money and I was able to, I wasn't paying myself with the new money I was making. I was paying myself with the old maternity savings. So that felt really good.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Like,
thank you.
What does that mean? But like, that makes me so excited for you. What an accomplishment, legit, that you were able to do this for yourself. And like, what self-empowerment you accomplished in like making the plan, sitting down, like doing it, and having been able to afford yourself what is unfortunately a very luxurious maternity leave.
Yeah. And I have to add this because my previous experience was so different with my first son. I was struggling financially very much so when I had my first son. And I had a very difficult birth with him, which unfortunately kind of made it very clear that I'd probably have a second very difficult birth, and I did. But with my first one, I remember coming home from the hospital, having had a C-section, a very difficult birth, and I was doing client work. I don't know, like 3 days out of the hospital.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I remember not being able to think straight and having to write this blog post. I had to write 3 blog posts. I remember not even being able to think. And it was horrible. It was horrific. And so my motivation was just to never, ever be in a position like that ever again. Yeah. So I was really motivated. For that to just never happen again.
Oh, everyone learn from this, please. Because I could not tell you how many times I have heard bosses, going on maternity leave. How long you taken? 2 weeks. Excuse me? Mm-hmm. Excuse me, 6 weeks? What? Like, you're just then able to start remembering your own name at about 6 weeks. Like, legit.
Really?
I think, and 3 days, not enough. No, you have no idea what's going to happen. And especially if it's your first. I think second and third. One, from what I've heard, because I do only have one, you obviously know better, right? With your second and third in terms of like what your energy is going to be like or whatever. But I've also heard that sometimes it's easier to get back at it with your second and third than it is your first, because like you're a little more prepared for how your life is going to be like completely like in complete upheaval. So it's a little easier to actually get back with your second and third than it's going to be with your first.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I will say that what I knew from my previous experience was that I was probably going to have a difficult birth. And so I really needed to protect that time around the birth. And then I also remembered that I didn't feel like I could even think straight. Like my brain wasn't working until my first son was at least like three months old. So it took about 12 weeks for me to feel like I knew what was going on with the world. And it wasn't until he was 2 years old that I started getting, full night sleeps and actually started feeling like myself again. So I was much more prepared for that side of things. I mean, I still feel like nothing can prepare you.
No.
But yeah, I had that experience. And so I was able to, I knew that there were certain periods of time that I really needed to protect because it just needed to be about me recovering.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Everyone learn for that, please. If I hear another boss saying 2 weeks, 6 weeks, a month, whatever, I'm going to start throwing things is what I'm probably going to, like, you're going to need longer. Okay. Even if you were like the most boss, you're going to need time. And the most thing you can do is give yourself the time, for sure. As bosses, we know the importance of testimonials, right? It's what helps your customers decide to buy you over your competition, and I know it helps you discern where to put your money too. So when it comes to deciding what move to make and how you manage the money side of your business, let me just say that FreshBooks, the easy-to-use accounting software designed specifically with small businesses in mind, has had over 24 million users, has 4.5 out of 5 stars on GitApp, and has been a favorite tool for bosses for over 7 years. Which means something very important. Small business owners like you really love using it, and it might be just the solution you're looking for to invoice your customers, track your expenses, and manage your books. Try FreshBooks free for 30 days, no credit card required. Go to freshbooks.com/beingboss to get started today. What did maternity, like the month before, a couple months after, what did that mean for you? Like, were you, air quotes off, but like still checking your email, still like writing things here and there? Like, were you allowing yourself to do things? Were there things that you still needed to show up for? Or did you just really cold turkey sign off and not look at another thing for months?
This was really hard to figure out because there were loads of things that I felt like I should do. I felt like I had to and I should completely switch off, and that's what a good maternity leave is. And if I don't do that, then I've failed at that. And so it was really difficult for me to come up with what this actually means for me. Yeah. And so it took me a while to figure out that I was not going to keep my VA on while on maternity leave, because again, that would have meant, this is something I want to mention. Also, wasn't just saving for maternity leave. I was also just saving like 7 months worth of business expenses as well, so that everything in the business could keep on ticking. Like all that software and tools and those things that needed to keep going while I wasn't there. I was paying for that as well. Did I really want to pay for my VA and social media manager as well? No, I didn't. So I decided to cut back on the contractors and figure out, well, what do I really want? What do I really need to do? I decided that I didn't want to be available to anyone. My main thing was that I didn't want anyone to have to rely on me for anything. And that was that. So if I decided to show up in some way, I wanted it to be because I wanted to and not because I had to. So I went about systemizing my basically entire business. And I hired a productivity coach and a Dubsado expert to help me literally just systemize my business. So one thing I was really worried about was forgetting like how to do everything, because I'd worked really hard on creating this. Really, seriously,
Mom's brain is real. I'm giggling because I know.
No, yeah, exactly. I was very concerned that I would forget just how to do everything, and I'd worked so hard on creating this, this experience for my clients and onboarding and project delivery and client offboarding, and I was like, I don't even want to just forget even just like one little tiny step. So we figured all of that out. We codified it. We have it all like written down and flow charts and all sorts. And then we also, and this is super important, we created a wait list. So I didn't want to be, I've been on some business owners' websites because I did a lot of research on what other people have been doing. Some business owners, you'll go on the website and it'll say, right at the top above the fold, I'm on maternity leave until XYZ date. And I thought about doing that. But I decided not to because I wanted to leave, but I also wanted to like come back as well and make that coming back as easy as possible. So I decided to instead like offer on my website. Nothing looked different except for when you try to send an inquiry to me. So then it would let you know like, hey, I'm actually on maternity leave. I'm planning to come back around I think I said around February or March. And again, I didn't want to be like too committed to a date. And I said, if you're willing to wait and you want to work with me, then fill in this form and you'll be put on my wait list and I'll get in touch with you as soon as I'm back at work. Or I can recommend you to another copywriter if you need to work with someone right now. And I set up an agreement with a few other copywriters that if I sent anyone to them, that I would get like a 10% referral fee, because I thought that's a nice little way to make a little bit more cash. And that was all automated. So I didn't need to do anything. Like the person filling in the form just clicks what they want and then the emails would automatically arrive in their inbox. So that was fab. Now I didn't actually make any like a 10% referral fee off anyone because I don't think anybody asked to be referred to anyone else. I got maybe about 15 inquiries and I think nearly everyone, maybe everyone asked to wait for me, which felt really good. So even just kind of seeing this come in made me feel a little bit more confident that it might be okay. It might be okay when I come back. And so that was brilliant. And the only thing that I really wanted to do was keep my newsletter going. So I told, because I'm an couldn't copywriter, so my newsletter is really important to me. And I had planned actually to write, to batch content in advance, but I just couldn't do it in time. And then I just thought, you know what, instead of putting that pressure on myself of, having to write God knows how many emails to cover 7 months, I enjoy writing my newsletter. So I'm just going to write it as I go along and as I want to. So I told my newsletter that, hey, I'm taking a break to have the baby and I'll speak to you soon. I'll be in touch soon. And then when I was ready to, I got back on it and started sending weekly emails because I knew I had launch plans early 2022. So I knew that I wanted to be like in their minds and on their brains, but it was great because I didn't have anything to sell at that point. So there was no like sales and I want this and I want that. It was just pure value and just like really fun newsletters and, getting responses from people. Congrats on the baby, this, that, and the other. So I had a really fun time with that. And I gave myself permission to continue in that sense and continue with the things that I enjoyed. My Instagram as well, I kept kind of posting. It wasn't business at all, but I am a personal brand. So it was still on brand that I was kind of updating everyone on my life and what was going on. So those were the two things that I continued. Just posting on Instagram as and when I wanted to. There were no kind of official posts on the grid about work or anything like that. And then my newsletter as well. Everything else, I was fully checked out.
Yeah. And you were just doing things that you wanted to do, right? You didn't. And would you have stopped either of those things if you had gotten into it and decided you didn't want to?
Absolutely. Like if I had started doing the newsletter every week and then thought, oh, I'm not enjoying this, I would have stopped. And also I started it at a time that felt good for me. It wasn't like a thing I had to do. So I didn't start it, super early. I started writing again when I felt okay to. And when I just really enjoyed it. Like it was a break away from everything else, to be honest. And also it was a source of connection for me, as was Instagram. So I'd moved countries. I'm away from my huge extended family. So it was really alien for me to be away from everyone and to be kind of dealing with postpartum without them. And so that was really a source of connection for me, my newsletter and Instagram. And I really enjoyed it. I think I needed it, actually. I think I really needed it.
Yeah. Oh, and I think it's beautiful that you built that flexibility into it. I do feel like oftentimes business owners, it can give them more anxiety, the idea of completely unplugging. And the point here is to do things in a way that makes you feel good. And so if staying slightly connected, I also love that for you, it was just like those little marketing pieces, the places where you're going to show up in your business, but you weren't client facing. You weren't talking to paying people. You were just showing up for a bit of marketing here and there.
Yeah. And I also want to add that I had an autoresponder on my email that was like, I am not available. I am not here. I'm away having a baby. So here are the things you can do, and then direct them to the various forms that they need to fill in. And I'll get back to you when I'm back on maternity leave. So that was great too.
Oh, I love it. Okay, then let's talk about the end of maternity leave. At some point you decide, well, I'm ready to go back. What did that look like? And what did it feel like getting back into it?
I was really excited to get back to it. I was ready to get back to it, which felt so good. And I knew that I wanted to kind of be working with clients in March. And so I decided that, and this is one piece of advice that I really want to share. When you're ready to kind of go back, you want to start planting those seeds a little bit earlier. So if I know that I want to have clients in March, I'm going to be sending speculative emails to those clients that I was working with last year in maybe early February to let them know that this is the timescale. This is what it's kind of looking like. Are you still interested in working with me? I made the decision to contact everyone on my wait list in early February and let them know I'm going to be taking on clients in March. So if you want to chat, let's chat, and we'll schedule in a chat for then. So that kind of process was happening. It was very slow and it was very gradual. So that felt great. And then I was also planning a paid workshop because, again, by this point, my the money was starting to kind of dwindle, and it wasn't gone at all. But going back to that idea of me needing that stash of money to feel safe, it was really anxiety inducing for me to see this figure that I had spent almost an entire year saving, disappearing and not being replenished. And so I wanted to make sure that when I went back, it wasn't because I had no money. So I still had some savings. I went back a little bit earlier than I needed to, just so that I could have that stability of, I don't need to take any work on. I don't need to take any clients on. I don't need to take any bad fit projects. I'm here 2 months earlier than I need to be because I want to be. And I sent out those emails and started working on my launch, which was actually really fun. I enjoyed it. So I had this paid workshop because I decided that I didn't want to do free workshops anymore and free webinars in kind of in the run up to my launch, because I just thought, well, why? Actually, I want to qualify the people that are coming to this workshop, and I knew the content that I was sharing was really good, and I was like, this needs to be paid for. So I launched this paid workshop. I made a nice little kind of influx of cash, which was brilliant, and then I launched my mastermind. Now, the mastermind launch did not go as well as I wanted it to. Yeah, so I had 12 spots to fill, and I filled 5, and I gave a scholarship place away as well. So there's 6 people in the mastermind this time around. Now, I think there were loads of things that maybe contributed to that. So first of all, I had to be realistic and think, well, Eman, you were gone for 7-8 months. So
Indeed.
that may be part of it. And then, of course, I'd launched when, everything with Ukraine was happening, and people's minds were somewhere else, understandably, and a lot was going on in the world. And I think that was probably another thing that impacted the launch, because people just had other things going on. The world was, crumbling, and so it was crazy though, because those numbers came in, and initially I was disappointed, but then when I stopped looking at the actual number and started looking at the people who had joined and just thinking wow, by the way, I'd raised the price of the mastermind this time around. So it was £500 more expensive. And, this is a significant amount of money. And every single person who joined because they believed in me and they wanted to learn with me and from me. And so I owed them nothing but excitement and, gratitude for just believing in my mastermind. And so I was super excited, and I am excited, and the mastermind's been going brilliantly. Every single person who's joined has been fantastic. There have been no refund requests. It's felt really in alignment. And actually, I also managed to land 3 projects as well. So I had the launch in March, 3 projects in March as well, confirmed. And even though the launch didn't go too well, as in I didn't get the numbers that I wanted, I actually had not just my best month in business, but my best week in business ever.
What?
Yeah. So the month that I came back off of maternity leave. And it was pretty insane because I looked at that week and in those 6 days, I earned more in those 6 days than I had in an entire year working at my old full-time job. I'm so serious. I am so serious. So it was insane. And you know what that did though? It made me realize that it gave me the space to not have to go full throttle.
Yeah.
And so instead of being crazy about, getting more clients and also like trying to make up the money that I didn't make in my launch, like I was just happy and okay that I could figure this out. I have a few more months of space to just figure out what I want to do and hire a VA to help me, because at the moment I am working with my youngest son, who's 7 months old now, at home. So I'm working around him in nap times, and that's maybe like 2 hours a day. So I'm doing these client projects, and it's definitely been difficult. It's been an experience. But I'm just kind of taking each day as it comes right now. And I think that's what I really wanted. I wanted to not feel a whole load of pressure coming back. And I think one of my biggest fears was that I would leave for maternity leave and I'd come back and no one would remember me or think about me.
Oh my goodness.
And hire me. And I think this is a fear that a lot of people who are going on maternity leave will have. And I think that there are definitely ways to make yourself kind of feel more confident that that won't happen. And so, I like to think that, I hope me sharing this has helped people. I know that I'm not an expert on this. I am not an expert. There's things that, I wish I'd done better. But
like what? Name one.
I think the burnout at the end, I wish that I hadn't, I think I panicked towards the end of me preparing for maternity leave. I panicked and was overcome by anxiety of just leaving for that amount of time and really overworked myself and burnt myself out. And so then baby was due the same month that I was also moving house. So I had a country, I'd moved house by that point twice that year, as well as moving country. And I just, worked myself to the bone. And I shouldn't have. I wish that I hadn't done that, because I needed that space to just, shift from business owner mind to, okay, I'm having a baby.
Yeah.
Don't think I really gave myself that moment to just be like, okay, shift.
Right. Oh, but also I appreciate you sharing that. Do you feel though that there is some regret or resentment around that whenever you look at what it afforded you on the other side of it? Or do you think that you still kind of afforded yourself that coming back flexibility if you hadn't done that? Tell me about the relationship between those two things, because there's a lot of cause and effect there.
Yeah. It's a hard one. I gave myself a couple more months by taking on those extra few projects at the end. And so I'm grateful for the amount of time that I had. And I think that it worked out really well in that I really did go back when I wanted to and when I felt ready to. And I was itching to go back. It wasn't just okay, I'm ready to go back. I was itching to go back. I needed to go back. And I was excited to. And at the same time, I was talking to people in my family who were, off on leave from their work. And they were like, ugh, I have to go back to work. Ugh, I am so not looking forward to this. And I just remember thinking, how blessed am I that I am away from work and all I can think about is going back, because I'm so excited to be back. So now I think I'm in a space where I'm just trying to find this balance between business and motherhood. And I don't have any childcare at the moment, and I won't for a few months. And so all of that kind of guilt rubbish is coming up for me as well around childcare as well. And it's so funny because if I was talking to a friend and they said to me, I feel really guilty because I need to put my child in daycare because I need to work. I just think it was ridiculous. But, right? We're so harsh on ourselves. We're so harsh on ourselves. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah. And it will be forever, forever and ever. But I love that your I heard it had gone well, right? Which is why you were here. But I am so impressed with what you were able to do for yourself by acting proactively, by getting your business ready, by, being very clear about what your goals were and what would make you feel as if you could take the time you needed and actually giving yourself the time and space that you needed. I feel like you just showed us what is possible, right? If you just show up and do the work, right? To give yourself the maternity leave that you needed, that you just needed and wanted, which is probably the most luxurious part of all of it. But I also just want to highlight that this is something that, you didn't work a year on, you worked 5 years on, right? You built a business. And I also love this idea that you came back and your business was welcome back with your biggest week ever, right? Your business missed you, your clients missed you because you had worked so hard for so long to build the kind of business that not only would support you before and not only during a maternity leave, but would show right back up for you when you got back too.
Thank you. And I love that idea of my business welcoming me back. I love it. And almost as if on cue, I don't know if you can hear baby screaming in the background. Hopefully he doesn't make it onto the recording. But I do just want to add that everything that I've said in this podcast episode felt entirely impossible to me when I was planning all of this. So this wasn't I had done this before. I had hit these kind of figures before. It was almost like you're living in a fantasy world thinking that you can come up with these numbers in 8 months. Seriously. So I want people listening to know that it's possible, even if it feels impossible. And I think the key, like you said, is to realize that this wasn't just work that happened over a year. It was work that I had done over time. And also that it really comes down to having a plan, a serious plan, and executing on that plan. Yeah,
for sure. Well, Eman, this has been a treat. I'm so glad that you've shared this journey. I'm so glad that you did this for yourself in a way that I don't see enough bosses prioritizing themselves and their family along with their business in the way that you've just illustrated that you can do. And I'm so glad you've come and shared all of this with us.
Thank you so much. And you're a really big inspiration to me as well when I think of business women who are also, balancing motherhood as well. So thank you for doing what you do, because seeing people like you do the work and also be a mum has really helped me be the mum and business owner that I am. And, throughout the past year, I've been binging the Emboss episodes, going all the way back to the very beginning when you and Kathleen, when you and Kathleen were talking about, time management and being a mother, and also Kathleen going through her, sleep deprivation stage, all that. Yeah, super, super important stuff. So you helped me through it as well.
Oh, well, wonderful. Well, just here sharing the journey, right? In hopes that it inspires someone to show up and align themselves with what it is that they want out of their work and life, for sure. So I appreciate that. I will let you get off to that screaming baby, but first, which I don't hear, just so you know.
He stopped. No,
okay, perfect. But before we get to last question, if anyone wants to know more about you and what it is that you do, where can they find you around the internets?
My website, emancopyco.com. So that's EMAN copyco.com, and same Instagram handle at @EmanCopyco.
Perfect. And I will say that we have worked with Eman in the past. Cannot recommend highly enough. Definitely go check her out if you are looking for services like hers. Otherwise, last question for you. I'm interested to hear what you say now. What is making you feel most boss?
well, I remember my last answer, which was, so that nobody has to kind of go back and listen to that. My last answer was being able to design my day as I want to, and kind of related now, but being able to design my business in a way that has supported my family. Like when I look back on the past year and think about how much my business has done for my family, that really makes me feel boss.
Yeah.
That really makes me feel boss. And I think it excites me for what's possible in the future. And just knowing that I have a business that takes care of my family makes me feel boss.
You are living a dream over there.
Okay. I want people to know that I feel like I have to bring it back now, because there was postpartum depression. There was all, and like, I know, I feel like I'm like piling on the sadness now. But it's
keep it real.
Well,
keep it as real as you need to.
But it's so true, because we see people like doing amazing things and it makes us feel like crap because maybe we're not doing those things that we deem to be amazing.
Sure.
But the truth is, there's a whole other story behind doors that you're not seeing. And so there's so much more to the story. We've done the highlights, right? We've done what worked. We touched a tiny bit on what didn't work, but there was a lot of difficulty as well. As you can imagine, just having a baby, right? So all that stuff, I don't even need to go into it.
It is not all puppies and rainbows by any means, but I do think that you accomplished something amazing with this maternity leave. Like really showed what is possible for our kinds of businesses, when most of us, especially solopreneurs or solopreneurs with small teams, or solopreneurs who are working directly with their clients, who think that this is what you just described as impossible, right? Like they could never accomplish it. How could they leave their business? What are their clients going to think? Am I going to be able to come? Like all the things you touched on are all the questions that I've totally seen, and you've totally illustrated that it is possible, and you can afford yourself the ability to deal with all of the hard things along the way without also having to deal with a business that's unruly and not allowing you the time off. So yes to that. Thank you for bringing us back down for sure, of like the reality of doing all of this is not all puppies and rainbows. But you did absolutely illustrate that it is possible to build a boss business that affords you the ability to show up as a parent in whatever way you most desire, especially during a time as significant as allowing yourself 6 months-ish of maternity leave. That is a dream.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for asking me to be here and talk about this, because this is something that I wanted to do. I don't think that we talk about it enough. And I'm really grateful that I can even be part of this conversation. If it helps one business owner figure out how to plan their pregnancy, maternity leave, I am happy.
All right, boss, because you're here, I know you want to be a better creative business owner, which means I've got something for you. Each week, the team at Being Boss is scouring the news, the best entrepreneurial publications, and updates and releases of the apps and tools that run our businesses, and is curating it all into a weekly email that delivers the must-know tips and tactics in the realms of mindset, money, and productivity. This email is called Brewed. We brew it up for you each week to give you the insight you need to make decisions and move forward in your creative business. Check it out now and sign up for yourself at beingboss.club/brewed. That's beingboss.club/BREWED. Now, until next time, do the work, be boss.
Yeah.